is open.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, the first thing we have is the minutes from August 19th, 2021.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No meeting mail. Appointments. It says Steve, but as soon as it says we go through the next bullet points then. There's appointments with Steve, but then I know that Steve's listed for a bunch of things coming up, so is there something
Correct.
separate or it just says we go
Right.
through? All right. So I guess we'll start with A. FY22 revenue year-to-date through August. Looks like we had a good August.
You can see for the first 2 months, we're 93,138 ahead of plan and 44,246 behind last year.
You look at it, last year's July and August are almost the same. And this year's July and August are almost the same, so it's better, great that we're ahead of plan. Consistent, it's just not as great as the boom of last year.
You can see rounds are down a little bit versus last year.
We have a lot of rain this year too.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's a question, is it weather or is it going back to normal trend? We need to watch.
At least through the heat of the summer, to be 93,000 ahead of plan is a good place to be right now. Just keep watching the trends.
I agree.
Any other questions on 22 year-to-date? All right. Staffing update from Steve.
Seems like a lot, John. You got most of it.
Oh, I do?
Yeah, at least the last 3 pages anyway.
Oh, yeah, I already got that.
I just didn't know if anybody was going to bring that, so I figured
Oh,
I'd just
okay. Yeah,
supply it.
sounds good.
There we go. Okay, just to give you an update of where we are now, if you look at our current staffing, at present time, we have 4 full-time people. The individual positions are listed there. We had 5 as of August. On the 27th of August, we had one individual who went back to school and is in his senior year, was working a 40-hour work week, will no longer be working any hours. We do have a second category of staff members, which I term as seasonal, which basically runs from April through November. Starting time in April depends on weather and where we are budget-wise and what have you. The ending date in November is the Friday before Thanksgiving. All of those individuals are equipment operators. One works 40 hours a week, and 2 others work approximately 18 to 20 hours a week, depending on how long it takes to get fairways cut. Those 2 individuals cut fairways, and that's basically what they do. Then we have some part-time individuals, which at this date are students. We have one that works about 22 hours a week, one that works 15, and we have 2 high school students who currently work 8 hours a week, which basically necessitates only weekends for them since they're in school. And we normally like to staff the weekend days with a minimum of 4 people. That way we can change cups, smooth tee blocks, empty the trash, and rake the bunkers and cut the greens. That's basically what we do on the weekends. So, being high school students, those 2 individuals were always looking for money, so I decided to have them stay on and help us out on the weekends. One of them occasionally comes in when he doesn't have school, and he comes in after school sometimes if we have little projects that he can do by himself. So that's where we are now. I have one of our full-time individuals who is retiring as of the 31st of December. That's the one equipment operator. He has expressed an interest in continuing to work on a part-time basis, approximately 24 hours a week, which I believe after talking with Catherine and going over Bristol County retirement, there is not an issue with that, but that he would then fall into that category of seasonal employment April through November. So we're looking to add a couple individuals. If you look under the proposed staffing level, I'd like to have 6 full-time people as opposed to 4. Again, there's listed the position superintendent, assistant mechanic. We are still searching for a second assistant but we're at somewhat of a disadvantage in competing with other clubs, and also the fact that there's a significant number of second assistant positions out there and a significant lack of students, ready to graduate students and so forth in turf programs looking for work. So we're going to continue to work in that direction. One of the things that we're at a disadvantage is pay rate wise. And I think we're going to find in any hiring circumstance moving forward, whether it's equipment operator or what have you, if we don't do something to raise those pay rates appropriately, we're not going to get anyone. Simple fact of the matter is, for instance, if you want to come work for the town of Acushnet, if you want to be a laborer or an entry-level position person, why would you come work for me at about $14 or $15 an hour when you can go work for the DPW for starting at 20 or somewhere in that neighborhood, 20 to 21? It's a pretty simple, math in that regard is pretty simple. So in the past, we've been able to cover with part-time individuals, retired individuals, but that pool of employment seems to be drying up. Or at least it has over the past couple of years. And most of the individuals I have working for me now, with the exception of a couple of the kids in high school, have been there over 12, 13, 14 years. And these were their retirement jobs. They weren't their, they've already retired at least once from a previous occupation. So we're actively searching to fill those positions, but we're at a somewhat of a disadvantage as far as what we can offer and how well it compares to what the competition is offering. I would like to have under seasonal staff, I'd like to have 4 as opposed to 3. Obviously keeping one at 40 hours per week, having another at 30 hours per week, and then 2 at 20 for maintaining, basically maintaining fairways. And then the part-time students, that all depends on what's available. Several years ago, we had a pretty consistent line of good, or source of good summer employment. That's when we had approximately 15 people on staff, 4 of which came from the same school, worked well together, and worked for 3 to 4 years before they went away to college, which was And then once they went away and went to college, the pool has seemed to dry up as far as high school students. We were lucky in picking up one or two from Bristol Aggie this year. And then one young gentleman who's worked, this is his second year having worked for us, who came to us last year. So that's where we are currently. That's what we'd like to see in the future. And again, of those people who are currently working, the one individual who's a seasonal, works 40 hours a week, he said barring any significant changes in health or other things that he will be back next year. My two other part-time individuals who work the 18 to 20 hours a week, their employment is basically going to be contingent upon how their health is when they come around to April. With the exception of myself and Kevin, who's approximately 12 to 13 years younger than I am, I'm the youngest person on staff at 61. The other individuals who are cutting tees, collars, and approaches, fairways, and rough are 74 and older. So we're going to need, that's why I look at trying to get a couple additional full-time people who are younger, who are going to carry the load for the physical work that comes at the tail ends, primarily at the tail ends of the season, April and beginning of the season and the end of the season when summer help departs, and also individuals that we can interest in long-term employment and not look to have people a year here, a year and a half there. And along with staffing, there's one thing I wanted to mention. In this industry, it is basically common practice to have what is referred to as maintenance Mondays. A significant number of courses are closed on Mondays. Other courses operate at different hourly schedules. I'm looking at that, and I would be proposing that we not begin tea times on Mondays until 9 a.m. 11 a.m., which would allow us to do a lot of the non-routine work that we just can't do in the presence of golfers. For instance, greens top dressing and brushing, greens verticutting, greens vent tining, fairway vertical mowing. And of late, I know I can see where the rounds are different, but normally we're getting anywhere between 100 to 185 people consistently on a daily basis. And once they're through the league, that includes the leagues, but the leagues come in 2:30, 3 o'clock. There's just no place to do anything that you're not disturbing someone and not being held up. It took me 25 minutes to hand water the 11th green 2 days ago, just because of there was one right after the other. It wasn't even 5 minutes between groups coming around to the tee. But this type of situation on a Monday morning would allow us to get some of that extra work done and then do additional things that we simply can't do when when the golfers are right on top of us. So I'd like to consider that moving forward, and I think it would really be beneficial course-wise and playability-wise and so on if we were able to have that gap in there where it is, again, it's too, where we can do some of our own things like fertilized fairways, for instance, which you could do, which most of the products you'd use need to be watered in. By the time we get the fairways cut and blown off and start fertilizing, the first group's on the tee, and nobody likes to be watered for 7 or 8 holes. So that's why we look at situations like this where we can grab a few extra hours and get things done and get ahead. And I do think, and I've had this discussion with Julie, I really do think that at this point we need to take I know it's relatively new, but we need to take a serious look at this whole wage and compensation situation, because it doesn't really fit what our staff are asked to do and how they do it.
Do you have an idea of what other courses are paying that we can make a comparison to within this general area?
It depends on where you go. I mean, if you were to go to, I mean, I can, we saw earlier in the year where some people were advertising in a situation similar to what we were advertising in, or pricing it in a similar situation. Most, for experienced labor, for experienced operators right now, you're anywhere from $16 and up an hour. I had initially at the beginning of this year, back in April, I went through Indeed and put a posting on Indeed. I got quite a few respondents. I contacted several of the respondents after going through their resumes. I settled on 6. I invited 6 for interviews. 1 showed up, and as soon as he found out he'd be making $15.30 an hour, he said he couldn't do it. Just couldn't afford to do it at that pay rate. So, in answer to your question, most courses, and that's where they're starting. A lot of the courses now that have, experienced operators who've been around with them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years are making over $20 an hour as an experienced operator.
Yeah, I could see the point. I mean, you go to a restaurant, they're hiring people to do next to nothing for $15 an hour. It's ridiculous. And people are turning jobs down.
Well, I mean, look at, you can't,
I mean,
you can't, I can't, I'm asking somebody to go out in all kinds of weather, deal with the bugs, the dirt, and all that good stuff, and I'm gonna pay them $15 an hour when they can walk around Target, get paid $15.50 an hour in the air conditioning.
yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Or they go to, you go to Walmart, and if you're a college student and you get a job at Walmart, Walmart's assisting you with some of your academic expenses in their program for young college students, and for the kids. I mean, before it used to be enjoyment of the work and all that stuff. Right now, it's all about the money.
All right, so can you get some kind of an idea from the local courses on what they're paying?
Well, what do you,
so
when you say local courses, what do you,
all right, within 25 miles of here.
So, so you want me to talk to the country club in New Bedford?
No.
So you want me to
Not
talk
the
to
country
Swansea?
club. Yeah,
You want me to talk to Montauk?
Montauk, Swansea, Pacoy, the ones.
Well, I can tell you right now, Pacoy's not paying anything, that's why they're having problems. I think John's pulling his hair out over there, but.
What else you got?
But he's a good man.
Some of the ones down, like Crosswinds or something like that.
Well, you go down to so you're gonna go down to the Cape then, you're gonna go to.
Well, that's within 25, 30 miles.
Steve,
right?
what would you recommend?
What would I recommend? I would recommend.
That we can live with?
I think that you should have a range of anywhere from, I would say, $16 to $18 an hour. That would be for your equipment operators. Now, if you're going to hire, full-time employees with benefits, and you want somebody with experience, you don't want somebody who just doesn't have, especially if you want somebody younger. I mean, you've got to be looking in the $20 to $21 range for somebody like a second assistant. You're just not going to get them because they can go other places and get the money they're looking for. I mean, I have a friend when I was down in the Met, who's currently a member of the Rhode Island Association, but he works down in New York. He's advertising for second assistants up here because he can't find them down there, and they're paying a salary of $64,000. So, not that anybody around here is going to compete with it, but he's reaching out all the way up to Massachusetts and Rhode Island because he can't get anybody down that way.
Can't compete with private employees.
No, that's the thing. I mean, you're going to have to, and there's a particular type of individual you're looking for that's not, younger people who want to learn the gamut of the business before they move on. And your second assistants and people of that ilk are primarily going to be, for lack of a better word, transient. They want to come to you, get some experience, learn some aspects of the trade, then they want to move. And they're hoping that they come to you and you can give them a good recommendation moving forward. That's the incentive. I mean, besides, our incentive here, besides a relatively decent benefit program, is basically golf, and that's it. You can't compete against the clubs that provide residences and food and all this stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the range that I would look at. And if you're moving to that range, I mean, I've got guys here who worked here 15 years, and they basically moved from $11 an hour to 15. You mention that to anybody else who works in town, specifically union employees, and they'll look at you like you're crazy. I mean, really, if you go back, you do the numbers, your percentage point raises are in the less than the single digits over the time that they've been there. And these guys are here, they're on time, they're dependable, they're reliable, and they do a good job. That's why we've been able to do what we've been able to do so far. Unfortunately, though, they're getting older, and there doesn't seem to be any replacements in line. I'm going to try to reach out to the Veterans Administration locally to see there. Also try to reach out to any of the local associations that might help for employment for whether it be Hispanic workers, Portuguese workers, or other individuals. I don't know if there is such a thing in New Bedford. That people must go, besides going to someone like Indeed or Eric's Jobs, there must be something else in the community that you can reach out to, contact, and at least let them know there's something out there if they're interested in it.
Isn't there, Dave, not unemployment, isn't there a job, something downtown that can't recall what it's called, but isn't there an agency down there, not like an Indeed, but it's a local?
I've seen a sign for an employment agency. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. I saw that over by Titleist when I cut through there one day. But
local jobs.
There's a place right on Ashley Boulevard. Is it Ashley Boulevard? Not Ashley Boulevard. Next one
Doesn't
down.
like the state.
The state has like an employment assistance center somewhere in New Bedford.
I don't know. When the school system goes to look for new people, where do they go? Do they place an ad, or do they?
It's primarily a website that most schools use. So if you're looking for a school job, there's like a school website advertising that's targeted towards that.
It's a state-run website usually, right? You can get.
Well, there's one there, but there's also a private company that most schools go.
Yeah, I mean, we have the professional organizations in Rhode Island and in Massachusetts and on Cape Cod. But normally what happens with those you can advertise in those associations, but what it does is it goes out to all the member clubs.
Right.
So basically you're advertising to take employees away from somebody else. But a lot of times guys will, if they have an assistant or a second assistant that they can't promote, but they're looking to move on and they know somebody else is looking, they'll pass that along. But now with the internet, I mean, a lot of people have access to these association websites. You can't, when you go to an association like the Rhode Island or the New England, you can't view the superintendent's positions, but you can view assistant positions and other positions. And we can reach out, you can reach out to TurfNet, which is a similar organization to a professional teachers organization, or you can even reach out through the GCSAA, but TurfNet's got over, I think now it's 225 positions for second assistants and 130 some odd positions for assistants. I mean, if you're looking for a job in this business, I mean, you got your choice about anywhere you want to go, and you can basically name your price as far as an assistant goes.
I would think, we're just starting to wind down this playing season now. So I think what we need to do is looking for more people, potentially higher pay. I think we just need to get in front of us and multiply it out, at least what we expect it could potentially cost, and what you feel the fair rate would be versus what we've been paying, and just see what that's really going to cost us. Granted, we can't be without people, but I'd want to know at least what would we expect this to total up to. And see where we are.
I mean, I can cost it out given dollar amounts, positions, time. I mean, that's how I build my payroll budget each year. The one thing that I haven't figured in there is when you're talking full-time people, you're talking the other benefit package, which is influenced by whether or not they take health insurance, and whether or not everybody has to participate in the pension program, but the other item there is health insurance, and then what's the other, there's something else in there, whatever else goes into that, what we call fringe benefit line item. You know, you talk about vacation time and other stuff like that.
I think a good starting point would be like costing out what the payroll projection would be for the number of staff and at the pay level that you would like to see. Is a good starting
That's the
point.
point that I was trying to make. What the actual think that he would have to pay somebody,
Right.
and then we could figure out, what it would cost per year, and against what we're actually bringing in, to see if it would be feasible.
Oh, exactly.
So right now, we have one equipment operator full-time that's going to retire.
Yes.
So we definitely need to fill that position.
Yes, and we had one who was, he worked 40 hours a week during the summer, and usually during the winter time, he worked only 30 hours a week because he was a college student. That's another position that we'll have to fill. And, hopefully, again, as I mentioned earlier, health concerns aside, that the other individuals will come back next year. I've had a commitment from one of them already, so.
So you said we have the full-time equipment operator, and you have another person, you had one per seasonal that's working 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
You had one or two?
one. That's the current staffing, staffing level, because I didn't include the person who left in August. He would have been that number where it says seasonal would have said would have said 4, and there would have been,
Two at 40 and
two
two
at
at
40,
18.
yeah, because I calculate him in at 40, just so if there's, again, we have certain circumstances where, it's the hedges of the season. I mean, everybody says, okay, well, everybody's going back to school and golf slows down. Well, golf might slow down, but aeration, overseeding, that stuff picks up. Same thing in the spring. Golf may be just getting started, but all of your crabgrass control, your recovery, if you didn't recover in the fall and so on, it happens again in April and in May. So we're busy, and then of course once you get to the summer, you probably, the way I look at it, you need a minimum staff on a daily basis of about 9 people. Just simply cutting cups, cutting tees, collars, approaches, cutting fairways, mowing rough, doing bunkers, and changing, moving tee blocks. And you're talking eight people right there if you only have one rough mower out there doing any work. And what we try to do, what we endeavor to do, is to stay in front of people and to not have them. There's a certain point in time where people are going to catch up to us, and we're just going to have to we just have to deal with that. But we try to stay ahead, so we don't hold up play.
So how do we fill the full-time equipment operator?
Well, we advertise.
We do the survey and find out that's basically a machine operator, right?
Yeah, equipment operator, machine
Right.
operator, same thing.
So we want to do the survey and find out what the surrounding area machine operators are being compensated for.
Public. Yeah,
Whatever.
not private.
Well, Waverly Oaks is private.
Huh?
No, that's public.
What's that?
Waverly Oaks.
Waverly Oaks
That's public.
is
Public.
it public now? It used to be
Public
private.
That's
Public and or municipal.
It's, yeah, it's.
No, I'm asking what we should survey for.
you-
Public, golf
Yeah,
courses
right.
and or municipal.
Now, you say 25 miles, that includes Franklin Park and everybody up in Boston.
Well, Well, I mean, you could be like selective here.
25 miles.
I mean, I would go with, a facility that is similar to ours. I don't mean condition-wise, because the conditions that we have here are probably, I know, are a lot better than what the conditions will be out there. But just an idea of what an equipment operator will make, what a full-time, don't go crazy. Get 3 or 4 of them, that's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did that, when Mr. Noble came up with his
Yeah.
initial, well, when he came up with, well, this is, but that's where this whole wage and classification thing came from. And when he first started that, I did a survey
Analysis.
of municipal courses.
Right.
Primarily municipal. I did Franklin Park, I did a couple, I got the list in here, I have all the information still in there. That was, way back when. I offered that, and, that was, didn't fit into the
Yeah,
program.
but we're in a
so.
new situation here, and we're gonna try to help you out, I hope.
No, you're helping yourself out.
Well,
I mean, you're helping the town out. I mean,
okay,
they
yeah,
look
but
at,
we're also, in the long term, helping you not do as much as you need to do. I hope.
I'm getting up there, and I ain't that old yet.
Well, yeah.
To get accomplished what we need to get
Accomplished, that's the, yeah.
Exactly, yes,
So.
all right, better terminology.
There you go.
Okay. We're helping the cause out, period. Yeah. I don't know, Stevie, grab like 3 or 4 of them, that's enough.
Well, geez, if somebody didn't retire from a certain job, I would have had plenty of these summer students who worked out real good.
Yeah, well, Steve, I'll be honest with you, where I'm working now, we can't find help.
Yeah.
I do more, I told them, I said, listen, there's one price now for teaching and there's one price for prepping. Because every 2 weeks I'm training somebody else.
Somebody new, yeah.
And then what happens there is that I like you would have to do, you have
Yeah.
to take time from
What
your
you're supposed
work
to do, yeah.
and go on to help them, whether
Yeah.
it's an hour a day or 2 hours a day for the next 2 weeks, and then come to find out the kid doesn't want, or the person doesn't want to do that anymore.
No.
I said, are you kidding me?
And then you're two
You
weeks
start
behind
the ball
on
all
your work.
over again.
Yeah.
It's not a good time, period, but, if I was a kid, I would love to work at a golf course instead of a restaurant.
Maybe I ought to look at the area golf teams too. I would hope that
Well,
some
there
of
you
them.
go, for Haven,
I mean, they're all coming here next month. Mayflower League
there
plus
you go.
something else.
Yeah,
Put up a
put up a
sign,
sign.
yeah.
I don't put
On
up
the
a
golf
sign. It'll
carts.
take 5 minutes
On
before
the
they
golf
make their
carts, put a sign on
announcements.
each golf cart.
Yeah.
They don't even, they walk.
Well, they walk. The coaches
Yeah.
ride.
But still, you're right, that's a good idea. If the kids see it, maybe they'll be interested, or maybe they know someone that's interested, especially for summer help.
You hiring any young ladies?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have 2 working for us now. My daughter is one, and another girl from Bristol Aggie is the other. And she does really well. I mean, I wish I would hire as, I've always had an interest in hiring female employees because they, all the ones that I've had experience with in my years have done very well, and they've been interested in it. And they, in certain circumstances, they pay much more attention to detail than some of the younger guys will and stuff. So I'd be more than happy to. I'd have a whole crew if they. But the interest that you get is rather small from them, unless you're actually pursuing through something like Bristol Aggie, where they're going to a school or a high school program which has some of those interests. I mean, there's a significant number of what they call women in golf now. It always has been there. Now they're just starting to advertise it and publicize it because it's a popular thing to do now. But in my career, I've known 3 or 4 women superintendents, and I've had 1, 2, I think 4 or 5 women during the course of the years work for me. 3 over here. But hey, if anybody's at home listening, more than happy to have you come by. I mean, you can work just as well as anybody else. maybe we should have a program where it would be more healthy for the town employees to get outside of the town hall for a couple hours a week, come over and do a little work on the golf course, get out in the fresh air,
That's right.
and so on. That would be,
That would work. That would go with like a lead balloon.
come on, that would be good for it. That's-
So what's the story with the second assistant position?
When you
That's
say,
been open all summer?
well, it's basically been open. To be quite honest, I haven't put a significant amount of effort into trying to fill it during the summer because I know that there isn't anybody out there, and nobody else is. The people that I've talked to are advertising for the same thing or having the same luck I am. I'm hoping now that you're getting towards the end of the year, you might have availability from some college students or folks in the program who are December graduates, or people who are graduates in the spring who might be looking for, early employment or something they can lock into so they know they have a job at graduation time and so on. So I'm going to go back through and make a couple contacts to the school and then go through the associations again and see what we come up with. It's kind of hard to do that type of thing on Indeed because they don't have categories, so you end up getting assistant school superintendents, or you get it doesn't segregate you out. So you get a lot of people applying that they're interested until they find out what the job actually is and say, oh, sorry, that wasn't what I was intended to be looking for.
We're hopefully going to find some comparative salaries if we can, semi-like courses, public and or municipal, before we post for that job.
I mean, I'll call guys on the phone, if they want to, I mean, I can call, call the association, because each association does a budget survey. Most of the time, they only include superintendents, assistants, and mechanics in that budget survey, but in some circumstances, they include regular line employees and so on.
Well, whatever you can get would, be an asset, I'm sure. It's just an idea of where we gotta go with this. See what happens, hopefully it's...
We need to go with it because the next thing you know, it's going to be May. It's going to be April.
Yeah.
We need that machine to
Well,
operate.
exactly, we don't want to be stuck with no
Right,
employees.
right. And that's Steve's saying that one of the seasonal will be coming back, and
Yes.
two of them are questionable on.
Well, yeah, I assume that they'll be back again. For those individuals, it's a matter of health at the time of the beginning of the season, how they feel and stuff. I mean, they've been, it's at least 15 years, going on 15 years for both of them, so.
So again, if their health is okay, they're locked into coming back.
Yes, I'm assuming that they'll be back,
So you got one seasonal 40 hours and potential two 18 hours, and you have one additional one you're looking for 30 hours?
Yeah. I mean, I'll round, like I said, I know who's coming back. Got potential, got one of the high school people be graduating. I don't know what his future plans are, but if his plans are stay local, we're going to try to keep him employed, on a part-time basis, because he's trained in several different things, and it would help us out. I would expect hopefully one of the high school folks decide to come back. Again, all that you really don't get a feeling for until the spring. I think one of the furthest things from their minds right now is jobs, now that they're in school and doing all that fun stuff, so playing athletics and what have you. And again, I would just mention that I think we should give serious consideration to, the idea of having maintenance Monday. And as I said, a lot of places are closed. I mean, we're looking for a couple extra hours in the morning so we can get some of these key issues done to improve our overall condition.
Now, are you looking at for year-round? I mean, for, when we're open, or is there a late period when it's like June, July, and August that it's?
Well, I would figure once you get through mid-October moving forward, we wouldn't have to worry about that so much. And then, at the beginning of the year, it's important, because if we don't have staff back right away, at least the rest of us can get those types of things done. So there's always an additional cultural practice to do. There's always an additional small project or something that can be done in that period of time, which can't be done if the golfers are right on top of you.
So have you been able to top dress greens every 2 weeks?
I have, during the summer, I was able to, for the months of June and a portion of July, I was able to get my top dressing out every 2 weeks.
Because of the daylight?
Well, not so much of the daylight, it's the early morning daylight.
Yeah, right.
But the thing, we had enough bodies, so we had 2 greens mowers. So I put 2 greens mowers out in front of the top dresser, because for me to do a light top dressing, it takes me 2.5 hours with that machine. I mean, it does a fabulous job, but it takes 2.5 hours to cut all 18 greens. So I give them an hour head start before I even fill the machine. But, and then what I normally try to do is I try to either brush the top dressing in or water it in. And a lot of times this year, I've gotten 1 or 2 greens done. Then you have to get the brush out to brush it, and there's everybody standing on the first tee. And you get 1 or 2 of them brushed, they catch up to you, and then you're not brushing, you're not watering. So this year, one of the benefits of the rain was I look at the forecast and I say, okay, I'm going to get 1/4 of an inch or plus of rain at night. It's supposed to come down pretty good. I put the top dressing out and I leave it on the top, because I didn't have time to brush it or water it in. Mother Nature comes by the next morning, you don't even see it. But I'd like to be able to brush it, because then you do have a little bit less of a pickup the next day when you're cutting your greens. The other things we have some tees that really could use to be top dressed, because their soil makeup isn't that good. One that comes to mind right away is the 4th tee, and that set of especially the 3 back tees. And I know it's not on the agenda. At some point, though, Hurricane Homelight's got to hit, or else we're going to continue to lose turf on some of these tees, especially like the 9th tee that gets approximately 2 hours of sunlight all day, because of the height of the trees on the left-hand side and the residual trees on the right-hand side of the 8th hole. But that's not on your agenda, so I don't want to speak to that. So.
Steve, are you suggesting we do this every Monday?
I think it would be good to do every Monday, simply because we can get some of these extra things in that we haven't been able to get. I know at our last meeting with you and I, Manny had referenced, had referenced some bunker edging. And we do need to do that in several locations. But we just, we don't have the time to take, basically 3 people and go out and do, a hole or two because, we get caught right away. Whereas we could say, okay, if we had this time, this Monday, our priority is edging bunkers on these 3 holes or these 2 holes. And then the following Monday, we could do these next 3, and, within the course of a month, you have them all edged. We're going to try to get to some of that in the winter, but this winter, we're looking at a staff of myself, Kevin, and Norm. That's it after December 31st till mid-April.
Would you do that even on like a holiday Monday that?
No, I wouldn't do it on a holiday Monday. And I think that, again, too, we need, a lot of our, I know you folks are going to be talking about this at some point as far as golf course organization is concerned. But I think we need to take a serious look at how we time and arrange outings and functions other than regular play, because it impacts what we're allowed to do on, what we're capable of doing on the same property. If you have for instance, this past year, we had the New Bedford firefighters on August 19th, then you had an 8 o'clock shotgun on August 20th, and then you had a 1 o'clock shotgun Saturday afternoon on the 21st. There's 3 days in a row where we have absolutely no time to do anything. If we're lucky, we get greens cut, possibly bunkers raked, cups changed, and tee blocks moved. And then, you're putting a substantial amount of pressure on your golf course, where if you just took one of those out, say for instance the 8 a.m. shotgun on a Friday, and moved it to a different day, then we would be able to handle that without any problem. So it's all comes along with that. And if we're going to continue to put that type of schedule, then I say yes, we need every Monday to 11 o'clock. Nothing wrong with the schedule, but we need, if possible, if we could space it out a little bit more, it would be more, and it would probably be easier on, both staffs, because that's a lot of work for Dane and his staff as well. So, as far as being, getting other things done.
I think I'd want to go back and see historically how many rounds would we be potentially turning away in this time frame across the time span that you're thinking of each season that this would happen, to kind of weigh. I get what you're saying about the time, and it'd be great to do this, but if we're turning away tens of thousands of dollars in revenue,
well, again, it's your choice. I'm just saying that you're going to come to a point where if you don't allot times for these things to do, no matter whether it's me or whoever replaces me, however many years down the road, you're going to get to a point where you can't keep up, and things are going to start to fail. And when they start to fail, you're not going to have that $10,000 worth of round revenue anyway, because the reputation is going to get out that your conditions are slipping and people aren't going to come. So, even the USGA promotes this Maintenance Monday through their website and through their communications out there. And as play picks up, as concentration picks up, as pressure picks up, as we try to push play out there on saturated soils and other things, you've got to do some of these things. It's not going to hold.
And tee times normally start at 8, right?
At this time,
On
yes.
Monday, right?
They normally start at 8 on Monday. And, there are instances.
It's been 8 o'clock all summer.
Excuse me?
Weekdays have been 8 o'clock. all
Weekdays
summer.
have been 8 o'clock all
Right,
summer, yes.
so-
Weekends right now are currently 6:30, although it's getting a little dark. I think Dana said once he gets into October, he might consider, bumping that up, because daylight savings is around the corner and so on. But right now, yes, weekdays are 8 o'clock, weekends are 8:30. We start at 5:30 on the weekdays, and we start at 5 o'clock on the weekends.
I think it's a good idea. It's just a matter of whether we do it every Monday.
2 hours instead of 3?
Excuse me? Well, I'll give you an example. This past, let me look. This past, where was it? It was Elite. we've had a problem, we've had a significant problem this year with aeration because of the bloody rain. And because of the rain, we had to cancel the dry deck and rebook it. We had to cancel the fairway aeration and rebook it. And because of those rebookings, we had to change our core aeration. So it answered, I mean, and there was one day that there was supposed to be an outing, Elite Baseball. It was this past Monday, the 20th. And I found out at the end, I found out on the 16th when we had to cancel the aeration. That's the day we got the rain and the lightning and all that good stuff. I found out on the 16th that those people weren't showing up. So I said, oh great, if they're not showing up, the weatherman said it's going to be a sunny day, let me start core aerification that day. Can we start tee times at 11 o'clock? And, and Isaac was very receptive. He said, but we'd already opened up the tee sheet and we've got a couple tee times booked at 9 o'clock. So I said, okay, well, if 9 o'clock's the best we can do, it's the best we can do. And they caught us. Problem is, this time of year, in our particular course, and it happens in a lot of other courses too, the sun doesn't get up above those wonderful trees. So the plugs on the greens don't dry. And when they don't dry, you can't pick them up. So instead of taking 15 minutes to pick them up, it takes 25 or 30, and then you don't get them all, and you're ended up with streaks of mud and other things. Which, and again, to answer, that's what we ended up with on the first, second, and third greens, because we tried to pick them up sooner than they were dry. Now, we're going to try again on this Monday with aeration, but the sun does not hit the fifth green until 8:15 in the morning. It doesn't hit the fourth green until almost 8:30 because of the trees surrounded. The eighth green, the sun doesn't hit that until 8:30, 8:45 because of all the trees. And because of that, things don't dry out and it inhibits that process. So now what we've done working with the pro shops, okay, next Monday we're going to start on the backside. And we're going to start at, I think, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I think it is. So that way, we can get the plugs up at 6 o'clock, and hopefully the sun gets up high enough and dries them off. So if we start at 10 o'clock, there shouldn't be anybody coming around to the first hole till 12. And we hopefully will have everything, everything pretty much cleaned up. But if we don't have that extra hour, you lose that extra amount of sun. Same thing for top dressing sand. Top dressing sand normally is wet because we have an outdoor storage, don't have an indoor covered storage. Therefore, when we put it out, it has to dry. And you can't brush it in when it's wet because it bridges. And I don't know if you've ever tried to spread wet sand, but it just doesn't work.
No.
So yeah, anytime we can get, and again, in talking with Dane and Isaac, we've been able to work around, some of the issues we've had, and I think, keep my fingers crossed everything will work out well. If the weather report they say is for next week is what it's supposed to be comes to fruition. So.
I don't see an issue with it like now, spring. I'm just concerned about the peak time of the season. It's the question, do you want this all the time?
June, July, and August.
No, now to next spring, I personally don't see an issue with it either.
Well, I don't even, July, August, and September, I think, is more, more volume than June, as far as rounds.
No, June's a big.
Oh,
June's a big one, yeah.
No.
June's normally the biggest.
I know other courses do that, Steve. I mean, I've been to courses where they don't open up till, on Mondays, what they call, it is also an opportunity where their employees get to play because that's the only day.
See, that's what I've been used to for the most part, my career prior to coming here. It was Monday was the only day the employees were allowed to play.
Right.
And it was after a certain hour in the day.
Right.
And of course, before you played, you got your work done in the morning. So.
But I know there are courses that do this, so we research, look into, you can get more work done. Yeah.
We certainly need time to do what we need to do to maintain the greens.
It's time and it's help at this, both.
Oh, yeah, that's the other, that's why we
both
have.
of it, you can't have him and Kevin and do everything out there. You know, there's gotta be other people that are gonna have to get involved in this and, you know,
So do we start it now and then,
try it now
and
and
not make a total commitment to like the peak season next year, which isn't gonna be for 9 months from now anyway, but at least give you the opportunity to start addressing these things right away now if you need to, right?
Well, we'll be, hopefully everything works out, we'll get there. We have 6 greens left to aerate, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the putting green, actually 7. But the putting green doesn't count because we can do that just about any time. That has to get done before the 13th because that's when the dry jack has been rescheduled for. But we should be able to finish that on Monday. So I'm putting this out there, so it's something you can consider and something we can look forward to putting into the program. Probably, you know, I'd go out and limb, probably say, you know, beginning of next season. And the reason I say that is because right now, I don't have enough people to do a lot of that other stuff anyway. I mean, the aeration crew is Kevin and I and Norm. And I'm pulling my mechanic out of the shop, significant amount of hours to help us with aeration cleanup and stuff.
All right, so let's move on. Mower,
Well, I want to make a motion to not to begin, to start taking tea times at 11 o'clock on Monday.
the rest of this year.
For the rest of this year. And we'll reassess it coming.
So next week, we can't do it because I'm sure there's already some.
Well, yeah, I see, and that's the thing with the pro shop is, you know, you have to get to them at least a week ahead of time because
7 days.
they start.
So we're
booking
looking
tea
at
times.
the first week of October.
So,
Right.
you know, and if you look at October,
October 3rd.
I would suggest to you that you start either the 4th of October or the 18th because the 11th is Columbus Day, correct?
Right.
Now, the 11th, obviously, will be open. Hopefully, we get some more people on that day. The 12th of October, we were originally supposed to be closed for aeration. We will be open that day. And then the 13th is the day that we'll be closed to get the dry jack work done. And we have, on the 29th, we have the vocational championship, which is a full shotgun on the 6th at 9:30. And then on the 14th, we have the Mayflower Conference, which I believe is another shotgun at 9 o'clock. So hopefully we get everything squeezed in there and get it done.
By this being done, is this gonna help you the rest of this year?
Well, it's most definitely going to help with, I mean, I've already discussed with Dana and Isaac this coming Monday, it's most definitely going to help there. Yeah, once I get, you know, once the dry jet gets through, I mean, we'll start top dressing again, and then we'll give us time to do other things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, start working on some of these bunkers. We have a couple bunkers that need to have sand put in them, and we have a couple that need to have the bunker cleaner run through them, take the rocks out, and probably add some sand to those too.
so about 3 minutes ago, when I said, do we want to start this now? And you give this other answer, and you say, we don't have the staff to do it now, and you're looking to put this out there to get it going in the spring. I thought that's what the answer was. Now Ed's saying, let's make a motion to start it now. And you're saying, well, we could benefit from it now. So which is the answer, Steve? Are we looking to do this in the spring? We're looking to do it now? You're looking to do it on
Dave,
the
we'll do it in the
13th?
spring. Make it easier for you to schedule, we'll do it in the spring. Don't worry about doing it now. I'll make do now. In the spring,
I mean, it's fine
and I
if you
think
want it now. I asked the question.
it'll be
I said that
easier.
wasn't the answer.
I'd say do it now.
All right, well, if Ed says do it now, then we'll do it now, and we'll find a way to get projects
To do
done.
whatever we need to do.
So the only thing, I mean, we can't do it for Monday, but the following
Yeah.
Monday, we can start that.
Like I said, if you're gonna
It's the
start it, I'd
4th,
say
right?
either start the 4th, it's Monday the 4th.
Yeah, fine.
Motion to delay Monday's tea time starting on October 4th.
Second.
Aye,
All in favor?
aye. All right,
All right.
so you just gotta inform Dana, or Steve, or Isaac, that we're doing this.
Yeah, so you don't book anybody for the Monday mornings.
Right?
All right.
Okay.
Well, you're right. Today's Thursday, right?
Yeah,
So,
Yes.
yeah, October 4th.
yeah, we can't do this Monday
Right.
because I'm sure there's people on the books.
Yeah, we are, like I said, we've already, the 27th, we had originally scheduled a Ocean State Women's Golf Association. They came earlier, so, and because of the problems we had on the 16th, at that time I spoke with Dana and Isaac, and as I mentioned earlier, the 27th, we're going to start at 9 a.m. on the back side. So that gives us time to get the greens which were left on the front side done before people come around. So,
Thank you.
Well, I was in favor of it, so I didn't think that was the answer that we were being given. Jesus. All right, so let's move on to mower replacement needs and other equipment.
so I believe, earlier, a couple weeks ago, Ed asked me to come up with a replacement list, but also with replacement options. I included that in here. There's an option A, B, C, D, and E. I didn't know if anybody would have copied or bought it, so I just included it here. I particularly, we can start wherever you'd like to start. What I put at the top was a description, so instead of just saying a Greens Flex or Greens Pro, you knew what that particular piece of equipment did. Then option A was the total package, and then you have option B, C, D, and E, and under each one in the notes, obviously you can see what's not there, but it also mentions what's deleted. I will mention in general that this has been a very difficult year pricing wise. Since the beginning of the year, Toro has had 3 price increases, so have 2 of the other companies. They've only had 1. There's going to be another price increase in November, and they just keep on blaming it on the supply chain, the material chain, and everything else, but they just keep on raising their prices. So I would, that'll be after, so anything, if we are going to move on anything, that would be, it would behoove us to do it before November 1st, or all the majority of these prices will change somewhat.
Is there availability that you know of for all, whatever you want?
Well, that's the other issue I was going to mention, is that right now, if you order before the end of October, they can't promise you a delivery date, but it should be sometime in mid to late spring. If you order after October, they're not promising you anything before September of 2022.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've had a few choice words with some of them, but they continue to blame it on the same things.
I'm
And
sure they gave you a few choice words back.
well, hey, they keep on raising the price. I mean, they're all sitting back there saying, "Geez, look, golf is doing pretty good this past year. Let's raise our prices again." I mean, come on, guys. But the problem is they don't have any inventory. Their inventory is all sold, so they can basically raise prices where they want, and they got you by the.
So if we order before October, maybe deliver it in the spring.
Yes,
If we wait until November,
then you're looking at August and September of 2022.
So you're
At
looking,
best.
if you get it in October, we're looking at 6 months.
Yeah,
If you go further, it's probably a year.
almost, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that I would mention to you, just as an example, I mean, we had already ordered 1 triplex,
Yeah.
and that's tentatively going to be available for delivery on December 1st. And I think we did that in July, maybe. And that's a new one, because they didn't have, I mean, it's new on the assembly line, because the new ones that they already made for this year, they were all sold out of. So they're, so there's the options, and if you like to discuss any of these particular pieces of equipment, we can do that. I mean, of course, I'm gonna, barter for as much as we can get, but what you folks feel fits in the affordable scheme of things, then we can go from there. I will tell you that we have one fairway mower, which is kind of on its last legs. We have two T triplexes which are on their way out. We have one of those replaced already. The second replacement is on this list under Greensmaster Triplex 3400 diesel. That's a triplex to cut tees, collars, and approaches. And the other item is the sprayer. I will, and then again, I mean, our aerators, our walk-behind aerator, our John Deere Aircore 800 has got a bad hydraulic pump on it. I haven't repaired or replaced that yet because I didn't know in which direction we might be going with equipment. And you see listed there, Procore 648, that's a walk-behind aerator that would be replacing that. I know in the past we discussed the slice seeder. Last year we decided to table that till this fall, so I brought it back into the list, being that it's the fall. And as I said, I mean that's what I see is replacing this year. And if we go through the options, again, if we determine what we can, I think determine what we can afford and see what we can fit into that program.
Your triplex to be delivered in December. Which mower is that replacing?
That is replacing one of the, if you turn back to the first page, you asked for what was considered surplus equipment. If you go down that list, the third item, you'll see a Jacobson GP 400 gas triplex. That's what that would be replacing. Right now, we currently have...
Which one? Again,
the third one down, Jacobson GP 400 gas triplex.
And how many hours on that machine?
I'd have to look up the number specifically, but it's in excess of 3,000 hours. I don't have the current hours on it. The most recent hours I would have had would have been December of last year, or December of last year when we took the hour meter readings. I can get those. Our situation right now is we have normally have three triplexes that we use for cutting tees, collars, and approaches in par 3 fairways. The John Deere 2500 is a gas triplex that we were using to cut the driving range tee and to help out in certain circumstances where we have either a 9 o'clock shotgun where we need to get everything done, or if we have one of those other machines that goes down. So the plan going forward is to pick up the two 3400 diesel triplexes and keep one of the Jacobson GP 400s, the one with the least number of problems and the least number of hours on it, and that would be used again to verticut, to help with verticutting operations, to help to cut the driving range tee. A lot of times Isaac will have lessons starting at 8:30 in the morning, and the tee mower just doesn't make it around in time, so we'll send someone up to cut the driving range tee. The driving range tee usually has a lot more tees and a lot more debris on it, and it would end up dulling our regular tee mower substantially if we're used on there all the time. So I like to keep that one residual mower that can just cut that driving range tee, and in that way it only has that one job. We can get that cut so he has some lessons and it can be open at the normal time when people come in around 7:30. So that's what that would be. That would be replacing, there are one or two items I didn't list here as surplus because I didn't know in which direction we would be going. If we were to pick up a new fairway mower, then we'd be replacing, we'd obviously be getting rid of the Jacobson LF 550, which we still have because nobody wanted it. And then we currently have the Toro 5210, which would be the, I think we got that back in 2000. 10, I think. If my memory serves me right, that's the one that would be replaced with the new fairway.
5210?
Excuse me, 5210.
Yeah.
Yeah, plenty,
7/27/2010.
yeah. Bring that up so I have it in front of me. So if I'm looking at an answer to your, where are we? These are, yeah, this is through December 2020. The, where is it? The triplex that we would be replacing in December had 3,063 hours on it. Oops, yeah.
And how much do you use those annually?
We cut tees Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tees, collars, approaches, par 3 fairways. Each machine cuts, tees cuts 175,000 square feet. Par 3 approaches, and that's about 145,000 square feet. So each day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it runs between 3.5 and 4 hours a day in the morning.
How much does that come to it annually? I don't have a calculator.
Well, if you were to go, in general, if we take,
Your tees, collars, and approaches are, you have 3 of them listed here, and they all average about 260 hours per year.
yeah, I mean, the average wise, yeah.
Right. And so how many, the one you're gonna replace has how many hours on it?
Let me see. I gotta get the TC that's the Toro. Hour meter reading in December 20th was 2,902 on the one GP GP 400 gas triplex, and then the two-wheel drive John Deere triplex has 3,245 hours on it. The triplex that we're going to replace in 2020 had 311.7 hours for the season. So, I mean, if you were to take 4 days, 3 days a week, times 4 weeks a month, that's 12. 3 times 4 is 12, so that's 12 outings per month. And if you were to average 4, you're going to be 200, between 200 and 300 hours, depending on, rain days, other work that it's doing, whether it's verticutting or doing something like that. We don't use the T triplexes and column approach triplexes to roll with, because the rollers don't fit on those machines.
Which machine do the rollers fit?
The rollers go on actually our oldest machine, which is a John Deere diesel triplex.
Yeah, is that on your list of it?
Yes, if you look at the top, John Deere, the 2500 diesel triplex,
Right.
that will be considered surplus if you were to decide to buy a greens roller, which is
Right.
on that list.
But it's not operational now?
It's operational now. It has an electrical wiring problem, so you can't put cutting units on it, but we're able to
But
roll
use it
with
for the
it.
roller.
Yeah, because the rollers don't engage the cutting unit. That electrical portion is taken out when you use the rollers, so you don't have to worry about it.
You have been using that regularly?
Yeah, At the beginning of the year, before we had the electrical problem, at times we had the precedent of service as a greens mower and also at times as a T mower, because we could flip-flop reels on it. And we were rolling at least once a week for the month of June and July. In August, we started having problems with the other triplexes at the beginning of August, so we had to back off from doing that. And we've been having basically triplex issues since mid-July. It got to the point now where we have to take a greens mower or a traction unit that was bought as a greens mower and put T-reels on it because we have one of the GP400s down with a hydraulic pump issue. And again, until I determine, or until we know for sure what we're doing equipment-wise, I didn't want to put $2,000 to $3,000 into that piece of equipment. So we've been making do otherwise.
So let me get this straight. The mower on your list here is going to replace the Jacobson GP400 gas.
If you're looking at the current list, the Greens Master Triplex 3400 diesel would be replacing the Jacobson GP400 triplex, which is currently used to cut peas, collars, approaches, part 3 fairways. The one that has the, I sit down, when in fact we are certain which pieces of equipment we may be getting, then I'll sit down with Norm and we go over the individual pieces of equipment and determine which one would be the best to keep. But from looking at what I have here hours-wise and knowing the machine, it's going to be probably the one that has, I'm sure it's over 3,000 hours now, because in December of 2020 it had 2,902.
Now, which one? That's that GP400?
Yes, that's the
So you think you've
GP400.
got 3,000 hours on it?
Yeah, that's got 3,000 plus hours on it.
And the issue is with a pump?
Well, it's leaking hydraulic fluid and it's leaking from the seals which go around the hydraulic pump. So in order, you'd have to, basically you almost have to take the engine out of the machine in order to get to what's leaking and to break it down and replace it. So we're assuming it's just the seal, it could be the pump itself.
So you definitely want to replace that.
Yes.
And if we deem this as surplus, what use do, how can we salvage this?
Well, you have two choices. You can either ask them to give you something in trade, which a piece of equipment that old, they're not likely to anyway, but then once you, of course, they know that it's damaged to some extent, then you probably won't get much of anything for it.
Just jump
The
in.
other option would be to basically, keep any vital parts from it that you could be using for another piece of equipment, because both the current greens mowers are GP400, so there might be something you can take off it, and other than that, then junk the rest. Because it's just, I don't want to start a junkyard down at the shop. I've already got one machine sitting outside. I've got a couple inside that haven't moved in almost 3 months because I just don't want to commit the money to them unless I know we necessarily have to.
Quick question on all these packages. See, I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
This is like option A, total package. I'm just trying to follow some very top item, Master Flex. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is. I'm just thinking MSRP 10,000, adjusted price 8,000, total cost 13,000. So what's making it go from 8 to 13?
Let me see.
That's the question.
What do you want? Price?
I may have, and this, because I took this off the Toro quote, I may have.
So the next one down, it's the same, 14,2, 14,2, but we got 32,9 to 50,000. And then
Yeah, I think I
16
may have, let me,
They haven't gone up.
the Flex 1021, let me look at his quote and make sure that I copied it down right, because I was taking it off the Toro quote. oh, you know why that is? Because there's two of those. That shouldn't be a, let me see. Greensmaster 1026, no, that's the walk behind there, there's two of those. 1021,
But even your Greensmaster, two of them, says adjusted price 6,900. So you think that to call it 7.
Yeah,
There's two
no,
before
the,
two, and it says 30.
Flex 21 is 8193, then you have to add, you have to add the cutting units, which are 4,000, or the cutting unit, which is 4,006. Greens Flex 1021. I don't know why you did that. Yeah. That's not the, I have to go back and look. That's a walk mower price, and he has 8. Then there's a backlap kit, a light kit, wheels, narrow Wiley roller. Yeah, so that's what brings it to that total. The adjusted price is, the machine is 10,371. I just didn't list all the additions. Like when you get, that's a walking greens mower. So when you buy the greens mower, you get basically the machine. Then you have one 14 blade 21 inch flex cutting unit, which cost $4,363. Then you have a backlap access kit that allows you to backlap the machine that costs $4,650.
So basically, once you add all the accessories that you need to make it a complete unit, that's
That's it. It brings it to $13,794.08.
Oh, that's fine.
I didn't want to bore you with the LED light kit. I mean, the page, it would be 7 pages long instead of 3. But and then there's the Wiley roller that goes on the back for $379. So that's why that costs more.
No, that's fine.
And in the other ones, you'll see that in some instances too. The adjusted price that I list there is the base unit price, and that doesn't have the all the additions to it or the accessories. And Toro across the board on their equipment gives a 21% discount. That's basically the Mass State bid list discount that they provide. So I probably should have taken that column out of there. It would have made it a little bit easier. But
So regardless of which option we're potentially looking at, what were we thinking was the plan for paying for this relative to what's in the budget? I know at one point we said, because we had such a good year last year, we wanted to just buy some of these, but then to buy them, we need the money in the budget to do so. Or really be an article to transfer our own money into the budget to do so.
Right.
It's not that we can't afford it, it's that we have access to the funds at this point, but this.
We kind of need to digest what he has before us.
Yeah.
And determine whether we want to, the next town meeting is January. So between now and the call for the articles, we need to decide, or do we want to buy some from our free cash? Or do we want to finance or lease, depending on our financial situation? I do have some numbers to share with you later. We can talk about what to do.
yeah, so just to give you, for my 50 cent, the bare minimum, as far as my recommendation concerned, is of course the last option, which is the 3400 diesel, the replacement fairway mower, and the 5800 sprayer. Now, one thing I will mention to you about the sprayer is that it has a operator enclosure on it for operator safety and being able to use the machine out in the rain and all that good stuff. It costs about $12,400. We can take that off that price, which reduces it to $62,241.81. And I would recommend, if we're going with the bare minimum, I would recommend the consideration of a set of greens reels for that 3400 diesel, which costs about $9,000. Those greens reels would make that a multi-purpose machine to be able to be used on greens if the situation arises. And it would also give you a set of reels that you could use for top dressing reels, so that your regular greens mower reels wouldn't be beat up from cutting sand and picking up sand and so forth. You know, that's again, that's option E is the bare minimum, and then, you know, this is my recommendation. Again, what you folks decide we can afford is what we can afford, and then we go from there.
And how you had from listed A, B, C, D, getting down to E, is that pretty much the preferred?
Yeah, I remember when you initially saw this list several months ago, you alluded to prioritization. And as you go down, and answer your question, as you go from A to B, you lose, you remove the Greens Master Flux 21, walk behind the Procore 864. So yes, it's going from, each step eliminates what might be considered less necessary than the items left on the list.
So I just wanted to be like, as we're working through a dollar amount going down through each scenario, it's the next most livable scenario to use.
Yes.
Is what it's- okay.
Yeah.
All right. The only other caveat with this is if thinking of the lead time for this equipment,
Right.
we should at least, regardless of how we're gonna pay for it, by next
Right.
month have the answers to what option we would want to go with.
Steve,
Yeah.
on your option E, the sprayer,
Yeah.
what does that advantage do we have? Does that sprayer have versus the one we have?
Well, it's not so much, it's got a couple, I mean, you could go over the fact that it has sonic booms which adjust to the ground height by themselves. You don't have to worry about trying to adjust them. You can go over the computer system and so on. The advantage that it provides for us is that it enables us to do our work more efficiently. And again, our existing sprayer is, when did we get that? I think it's 11 years. We got it in 2011, so it's about 10 years old.
Right.
So it's going to need some parts replaced. But the idea behind the sprayer is that we've got 30 acres of fairways. And again, in time crunching situations, it took me, I mean, this last fairway spray, for instance, I sprayed 3 fairways this past Saturday. I came in and started spraying fairways at 4 o'clock on Sunday and did 3, 4, 5, 7, 12, and 13 before I got caught by play. And then on Monday, I had to spray 1, 2, 14, 15, and 9. Instead of getting them all done in the appropriate window, given the fact that the dollar spot was going crazy on me, and I've got a little dollar spot damage on several fairways because I just couldn't get out there to get them done. 2 sprayers, I put myself on one, I put Kevin on the other. We're done fairways in 3.5, 4 hours. 600 gallons versus, or 625 gallons versus 318.
How many hours do we use this sprayer?
Our sprayer gets used, let me go back to still have it up. Where is the sprayer? Utility vehicle sprayers. As of 2020, Smithco Price, I had about 2,000 hours. You're about 300 hours a year on it, give or take, depending on the severity of the disease, pressure in the season. I'm on it every other Tuesday or Thursday for the month of May, June, July, August, and September. Every 2 weeks greens, every three weeks tees, collars, and approaches. Par 3 fairways every 4 weeks. We try to do fairways every 4 weeks, but we don't necessarily have enough money in the budget to do that frequently, so we're more weather dependent for those. And the other thing too is with the additional sprayer, it's a newer machine which is more accurate. It gives you a better spray tip, but it also, put two machines. You can put that machine on greens and you can spray all your greens in an hour. So if you're stuck in a spot, or tees, collars, and approaches, if I start at 6 o'clock in the morning, if I'm spraying tees, collars, approaches, partially fairways, I have to do 2 tanks, and I don't finish till 11:30, and I usually get caught. So I have to jump around with the 2 machines, put one person on the front, one person on the back, divide it up any way we can. We're done. We're out of people's way. It'll allow us to do some liquid fertilization on fairways that we normally can't do now. And it would also allow us to, if we have a problem like we had 2 or 3 years ago with hyperodies on our fairways, we can jump right out and we can get it, as opposed to doing a couple fairways here, a couple fairways there, and hoping for the best. I'd hoped that they would have come out with a 500-gallon sprayer, but Smithco has one, but it's a little bit more than that, so I didn't think, we'll try to go with 2 300 gallons. If it's in the numbers.
Also,
I think we need to take this under advisement and schedule Steve to come back again and get a little more detail.
I think we want to make a decision in October so we can get whatever we decide, right, ordered as soon as we could, right, to hopefully have it next year.
Right.
One other thing I got for tonight, Steve, just in my mind thing, like if for the stuff that we're looking to buy, like the average lifespan is like how long it lasts, 3, because some of the stuff is 10 years old, so if we buy it again, can we realistically expect another 10 years versus some things that you get beat on all the time, tons of hours, they're gonna last 5 years.
I think in terms of the sprayer, I think you can get 10 years out of it.
I'm just thinking if we could maybe just add a note to your list saying the expected lifespan for each item, just so we can see that.
Well, I can, the greens roller is as long as it doesn't fall apart, and it should last a good time. The diesel triplexes, I would say that you're going to get 10 years out of each one of those. And you might want to replace it earlier. Again, the reason we have gotten 10 years or longer out of some of the pieces of equipment that we currently have, but we've had to sink a good portion of money into them. And because after about 5 years, that's when your hydraulic pumps start to go. That's when you start to get into significant hose issues and so on and so forth. But yeah, I would and you're buying the Toro 3400 diesel triplex is a good machine, and it's going to last longer than the GP 400.
And the reason I asked is I'd like to see that because I'm kind of of the mindset that something that's going to last 10 years, why don't we just buy it? If there's something that you're going to beat through every 3, 5, 7 years, or maybe that's an item that's more lends itself to leasing because you lease it, you're done, you turn it in, you lease it again, kind of like the carts, right? We're always beating through the carts, that's why we're constantly leasing carts. So just for my own benefit, that's why, because I don't need it tonight, and just kind of looking for, again, if we're going to start cherry picking certain things or prioritizing things, or prioritizing versus buying versus leasing, I would just prefer to, if we're buying anything, to buy the things that have the longest lifespan.
Yeah, have the longest lifespan. Yeah. Like the grinders you're looking at, those are 15, 20 years anyway.
Right.
If you take care of them. I can do that. I can go back over this list and I'll get rid of that column that makes it look confusing, and then I can put.
Just replace that column with or
I can put
lifespan.
Expected or lifespan, expected life.
Surplus, I don't think we need to talk about.
You're
It's just-
gonna need that for all the options you're gonna buy. You're not gonna buy a strip machine. So you're gonna need.
Well, see, that's
what options you're gonna.
That's why I give you the total cost.
Keep the column to the right.
The thing about you would think if you were buying a mower, they would give you the thing that actually cuts the grass. But you get what they call the triplex is the traction unit. Then you have to buy the 3 reels, which are $3,000 a
Buy
piece.
the car with no wheels on it.
And then once you buy the reel, you're only getting the housing and the reel itself. you're not getting the front roller and the back roller, so you have to buy those. You know, and then you're not getting the, you know, if you want lights, you have to pay for the light. I mean, just, it's just like getting a car.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
costs
the-
just as much,
the
if not
adjusted
more.
price is,
Yeah.
is
All right.
actually no use for us. We
Right.
need to know what the actual cost of what you're gonna need, of what equipment you're gonna need on it.
You know, this kind of goes right into the same equipment in total, and then the grinding equipment lease options is kind of the same. I'm saying the next, as we move down to grinding equipment lease options, it's kind of the same thing. What are we going, just the, we know we need it, it's just how are we going to procure
He
it?
said it just lasts 20 years.
Right, right. Do you want to get into that now?
Okay.
Because that's the one reason, one thing I need to read tonight, to do with
Yeah, so let's
the
do-
grinders.
So let's do grinding
Okay.
equipment.
Page 4 of your handout. A little history. At one of our prior golf meetings, we agreed to use any excess expenses, expense savings, and possibly from the town articles that we had appropriated before, to buy 2 grinders and 1 mower. And once all the numbers came in, Melissa's reported to me that we only have $64,000 left to spend between expenses and the 2 articles. So the question is, we've ordered all 3 of those. There's no fall town meeting. So we're basically committed to these with no funding. My proposal is that we pay cash for the mower, and we enter a 5-year lease for the 2 grinders with a $1 buyout. And Steve has that at $14,014 per year for the 2 grinders. And what I'd like to do is we go to the Board of Selectmen's meeting next Tuesday, it's on the agenda, and make that proposal. And my motion is that we purchase from from cash that is available for FY21, the mower, and to enter into a 5-year lease for the 2 grinders.
And just to refresh my memory, which mower are we purchasing, Steve?
3,400, the triplex,
Okay.
we had, yeah.
The total motor cost is $55,585.
Yeah, I was gonna remember which.
And which one is that gonna replace? That's the
One of the 2 GP 400, whichever's in the worst shape.
How do you determine worst shape?
I determine worst shape by
Amount
1,
of
its current condition, 2, the number of hours in it, and 3, the amount of money that we had to put into it. And then what we'll do is we'll go over each piece of equipment, and I know this is on TV, hopefully they're not watching. The one that we keep, we take everything good off the one that we're getting rid of, put it on the one we keep, and take the bad stuff, put it on the one we're getting rid of, and there you go.
That works.
But, yeah, so we try to make, basically what we do, we keep the one that's in the best shape, and again, it's by the current condition, operating condition, the number of hours, and so on, and what we have spent on it in the past.
All right,
And so Ed's made that motion.
well, let me go into some more detail. The next page is a budget outlook I put together a couple years ago for FY 2018 to FY 2028, basically to pay off the debt. And we voted to accept this proposal, this plan, okay? it calls for, at the end of FY '28, all the way down to bottom, we would have a reserve of $460,000. And the assumptions was labor and non-labor expenses increased 2% per year. The revenue is at the 2019 level, which is about 33,000 rounds. And it was $1,465,000. The construction debt ends in FY '28, and no proposal for indirect costs. Now, I presented this to the Board of Selectmen in January of 2020. Basically, I guess they accepted as a plan. And basically, I pitched it as a plan to what do we need to do to keep the mowers in a condition to be able to cut the grass and generate the rounds. And we planned on doing, you can see here, in 2023, we're gonna lease one rough mower and one fairway mower. What we decided to do was actually buy the fairway mower and lease the rough mower. So the $27,125 was actually only $15,143.
Yeah.
And then we said in FY '23, 2 years later, in FY '21, we entered that lease.
Yeah.
2 years later, in FY '23, we were going to replace the second rough mower and the second fairway mower. So we put that lease in at $27,125, 5-year lease. And then the following year, we're going to replace all the 5 greens mowers we had and the sprayer for $39,600. So basically, we turn over all the cutting machines and have the ability to cut the grass. And when we did that, we came up with $460,000. Now, the next page shows where we are. Any questions on that? The next page shows where we are. We have a boom. We had a super year in FY '21. You can see all the way down, revenue for FY '21 did almost $2 million. And if we go back and keep the same assumptions, but add the lease of the 2 grinders in FY '22, which comes to roughly $15,000. We do that and we explode it out to the end of FY '28, we have $811,000 free cash. So it shows that, although we don't have the money to pay cash for the grinders, we can lease them, and based on the excellent result we had last season, we'll be in basically twice as good a shape as we were last January. So that's basically my motion, that we buy from cash the exit, the unused expenses and article money to purchase the lawnmower for $55,000 and to enter a 5-year lease for the 2 grinders.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
I think we made the motion, so yeah, seconding his motion, technically, right?
Okay.
Okay. So Ed's made the motion, John has seconded it.
Oh, thank you.
We all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do, and I'll make that proposal next Tuesday night.
Steve, the grinders, are they like back ordered or?
Well, they were,
Ordered them.
Oh, okay.
they were ordered, and they were gonna send one in September and the other October, and then we had a discussion about lease versus buy and so on and so forth, so I called them up and said, listen, I said, we'd like to look at those, not receiving those 2 items until November. He said that wasn't a problem, so.
And you're gonna get that paperwork for Julie?
Yeah, they, I contacted them today, and they have basically right now, all they're looking for is a credit application.
Right.
They don't provide the actual paperwork until the time of
And you
delivery.
sent that to Julie,
Yeah,
right?
let me call you
I
back.
believe she was included in that, yeah.
All right, bye. All right, I missed that.
So that's the one item on my list I need to get agreement on, so I can do this on Tuesday and get that going.
So we just voted on, right, so we're all set to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have next cart lease.
Yeah, next cart lease, Dana had talked about replacing some of the carts. And we asked her, and Megan and I asked him to get back to Club Card and find out exactly how to rotate it and what the cost will be. So he has not got back to me on it, so we need to put that on an additional agenda.
Okay, so forward.
He did say something about needing to make an order sometime in November if we expect to get Lisa's new carts in July 1, so, which would be added, any costs would be added to the lease, to FY '23 budget lease items. So we can get that done.
Seasonal counter help.
It's just an issue here we've been working on, freeing up time for Dana to work on managerial type things. And the recommendation there is that in the past, he's had seasonal help assisting him, but they were students. And they leave, they go back in August or whatever.
Right.
And we just don't have anybody to get behind the counter and provide the time to break Dana away from the pro shop.
Didn't we last meeting come up with an idea to hire someone at like 30 hours a week?
Right,
Yeah,
that's
right.
exactly right.
Okay.
And he made that proposal to one of the Ranger starters.
Yeah.
And that person is very interested in that. He's a school teacher now,
Right.
and so he won't be available to start that until next season, so.
Like June.
In the meantime, the kids are all back, and Dana's working behind the counter. No time available to deal with the kinds of things that Manny and I, as
Yeah.
part of the Grease Committee, is working with him to get done.
Right.
So it's like no progress until next spring. Whether I know Dennis, who's the individual,
Yeah.
is available on Saturdays. He should be starting to train on that position to get him up to speed as soon as possible.
Did he just get back, Ed, from
Yeah, he's been
surgery?
back from the
And knee surgery.
Yeah, okay.
And he's fine, so
Okay, all right.
it's probably
Right,
good
okay.
thing to do. So me and I will work with Dana to see if we can get that accomplished.
Okay. Of course.
Water on the course.
The other under course, we still don't have a recommendation on how to deal with it. Right now, Dana is making sure everyone understands that there is no water on the course.
Right.
My recommendation here is that that we get Steve and Dana to meet and come up with a recommendation on how to deal with the water, availability of water on the course. I don't know,
For the remaining of this year?
and into next year. It looks like for the remainder of the year, we'll just continue the way it
The way
is
we are, because.
and get a recommendation next spring. I know right now, recharges and jugs, containers of water, especially on the weekend, falls under Steve and Kevin, and it's like,
Yeah, for the most part, recharging the water, yeah. We do that, you know, he and I are the ones who do that all the time. My question about the water is simply, do we not want to use the coolers? Do we want to use the coolers? Because people still have, I don't know, some courses put out coolers, but they don't put out cups.
Right.
I mean, I don't have a phobia about what's going on, COVID-19 or the rest of it. I don't have a problem pushing a button to get water out. Some people may do that. So do we want to, I don't have any problem putting the coolers out. It's just whether, I mean, do we want the coolers and the cups? Do we not want the cups? Or do we just want to say, okay, here, you know, here's a bottle of water for X amount. You can buy it before you go out in the course.
The thing with the cups is that you dispense them yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You pull, so you're only getting,
Yeah.
so I don't really see a problem with that.
I don't either. I'm just saying,
I just
you know,
don't.
I'm, at this point, I'm basically, you know, let me know what you want to do and, you know,
Yeah,
and
well-
we'll get it done. But
My recommendation would be go back to what we were doing in the
Yeah.
past.
What difference does it make?
Get new-
People are driving
Yeah.
the carts around. and-
Get new
Cans out the carts
new
around.
water containers and go back to what we were doing.
Well, yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with the actual containers themselves. It's just that they, you know, we cleaned them out and they've been sitting on the shelf since then.
Fine.
And again, I mean, you know, and I'll be the devil's advocate here and just mention the fact that why is it automatically assumed that golf courses have to have water out on the golf course? You don't have water on the tennis court. You don't have water on the paddleball court. You don't have water on the basketball court. And it's free water. And there's nothing free about the cups, which cost, you know, you're going to spend over $1,000 on cups. And there's nothing free about the labor putting it out there, running the ice machine to make the ice, and so on. Like I said, I don't have a problem. I just bring those things up for people's information because I never, anytime I go to play golf, I don't ever assume there's going to be something out on the golf course. And we have people going into the parking lot with their carts, and if you look at what they're putting in the cart, I don't think they're going to have to eat or drink for another week. I mean, the way they load those
probably
things
not
up.
water either.
Oh, no, it's definitely not water. But, you know, if you want to put the coolers out, that's fine with me. If you want to put out, I mean, if you want to put out water bottles in a, you know, in something, but then again, people will take 3, 4, 5, or 6. So you don't want to do that.
We had an
You know.
issue with that, we talked about that, that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen to water bottles.
Yeah, they're gonna take,
Well,
you
not
know,
only that, there was a storage issue and all kind of.
yeah, it just doesn't have the room to put them, so. Or, you know, like I said, you indicate that and you tell them that you can, I mean, really, and for us, it's pretty simple. I mean, you can get them when you go at the first tee. When you come around 6, you can get them. And when you come around 9, you can get them too. So there's not physically water out on the golf course. And, you know, on the golf course, I mean, people take, you know, 10-gallon jug, they fill them up. So by the time noontime comes anyway, half the light coolers are gone. And then, you know, the guys in the leagues complain because there's no water. That's because everybody, so you have to go out there and change it twice.
Yeah, they're filling up those.
They fill up Gatorade bottles,
The
they fill
water,
up coolers,
yeah,
they,
Cooling.
you know, regular water bottles, they, you know, but again, I don't have any problem putting it out, doing what we used to, you know, as long as you
The
folks
thing
come
is,
up.
Steve, like you just said, if they're being used, so be it. You know, let's let it continue being used and
Yeah.
go from there.
Sell a bottle of water in the clubhouse.
We do that. Yeah,
That's
but
it.
Yeah,
That'd be the easiest way. If you want water, buy it.
yeah,
We're almost in October this year, so why, and we've gotten through the hot part of this year
yeah,
without
really,
it.
so.
yeah, so,
Why
yeah,
why worry about changing?
Yeah, why worry about changing it
that
now?
in
Yeah.
March.
So we're gonna continue as is right now,
Right.
Be my personal recommendation.
until the spring, right?
Yeah, and
Right.
hopefully if things change, well, we can just go back to one more thing that hopefully is more normal next year. Rounds of revenue analysis.
I think we
That's
can hold
6:30.
the rest of this until we get another meeting.
Well, I was even thinking the bottom two, we could definitely, and if you want to get rid of I until the next one, that's fine with me as well.
Right, I get rid of all of them.
Okay.
Let's set another meeting, pick it up. We'll have Steve back to to decide on what we're gonna purchase.
I'm not here the last week of October, but we're gonna do something before that.
Sooner the better.
Okay, all right.
Want to look at the middle of the month, what, the 14th and the 21st for Thursdays? Right now, fine on either one of those two.
Yeah, that's fine with me. 14th or the 21st. Unless you're gonna go before that,
How about the 30th?
of this next week. Yeah, I can do that.
Steve, can you get a survey of wages for next week?
For next week, I mean, I can, my best bet is to call guys up and ask them.
Fine, that's fine.
So, I mean, I
That's
can call them up and ask them. Now, you're looking at, come on, get out of here.
You want to do next Thursday?
This is
Actually, I have a
October,
Meeting for work at 4:30 next Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes.
October 7th.
How about October 7th?
Yeah, I'm good.
Because next week is September 30th. Yeah, September 30th, we're doing fairway aeration hopefully all day, so that would be,
But the 7th is okay with me.
Yeah.
7th is good?
Yeah.
7?
Yeah. Bob, you good?
I think so.
What about where? Here?
Here, 5,
Okay.
4:30 or 4?
4:30.
4:30 is easier for me.
Okay.
All right, so October 7th, 4:30 here.
Yeah.
What is that? Motion to adjourn, John?
I'll second.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.